Hi, welcome. My name is Mark Hazelton, and today we have Vern Beadle and Kim Austin. And today we're talking about top tips that every RVer should know before their first trip. Kim, let's talk about route planning.
Well, you want to know where you want to go first and then how you get there. And then you have to call the campgrounds to see if they're available. And depending on the time of the year, sometimes there is availability and sometimes there's not.
How long in advance should someone start planning their Alaska vacation?
2 years.
Boy, yeah, I would think 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are some of the issues that someone might run into while planning a vacation?
Well, not having an available campground.
That's number one.
And then you have to consider what you want to see when you're there. And then can you see that? Because not every park is open year round.
A little bit is you don't know what you want to see.
Oh, definitely.
Until you get there.
And what else is in the area either.
You don't know what you don't know.
So when people sign up with Fantasy for trips, they don't have to do all that route planning on the front end. We do it. It's done for you. So somebody says they want to go to Alaska. Well, book your trip now. By the time that the rally date shows up, all of your campground reservations are made. Your trip log is written. All your entrances into parks, all of your reservations for dinners and events you're going to go see, they're all made for you.
How much time does somebody usually take to plan a trip with Fantasy RV Tours?
The guests or the company?
The guest.
Guests, not much time. They don't have to because it's all done for you. From my perspective, if you're signing up on a trip, you're going to hear from your wagon master, and they're going to make suggestions about how you should prepare for your trip. And in that preparation, they're going to talk to you about getting your RV serviced, have your tires checked, check your batteries, take a look at the route that the trip log says you're going to take, become familiar with it. Those are some of the things they're going to tell you right on the front end. And then they'll give you a list of suggestions for things that you should bring with you on the trip. One of the things that I had written down when I was thinking about doing this, what about medications? People get on the road, they're going to Alaska. Do they really think about how much medication they need to take if they have prescriptions? How are you going to get them filled? These are things you need to think about ahead of time. People overlook it. Wi-Fi, cell phone, the list goes on and on. You need to do all that preparation on the front end. So we as a company, we send out letters and tell people these are things you need to do to prepare before you ever hit the road.
Mm-hmm. You talked about prescriptions. What recommendations would you have for entering into Canada with prescription medications?
They really don't ask you those kinds of questions at the border. So that's not a concern when you cross into Canada. But once you're up there, if you don't have enough medication with you that is a prescription, you're going to need to call your company or that provides it or your doctor and figure out how you're going to get it.
Kim, talk about what to pack before an RV tour.
Well, depending on where you go, you need to look ahead and see what the weather's going to be like. And really, going into Canada, for instance, you probably want to layer. Going into Mexico, depending on what time of year, you also want to layer because it can get kind of cold in Mexico. And then Western National Parks, we start at Zion, and it's pretty hot. So you want to make sure you have a lot of cool weather or warm weather clothing. And then I would probably just take things to layer in terms of clothing.
You have to anticipate what's going to happen on the trip. So you have to have rain gear with you or raincoat and those kinds of things. And you have to have clothing for cold weather, too.
Well, in whale watching, you need to have the rain gear.
Sure.
Because you can get wet in the boat.
What are some of the must-haves on a long tour?
The must-haves on a long tour?
Well, I'd say prepare for not having power.
Sure.
Because you never know. Sometimes the power could go out, and you just have to be prepared to have food that doesn't need to be cooked. One thing.
Oh, yeah. And if you
candles and flashlights.
If you have food allergies, you have to prepare with your own food to take with you on a trip. Don't anticipate somebody taking care of it for you. You have to prepare for that kind of thing too.
You talked about not having power. My understanding is that most of these coaches have generators. Talk a little bit about what people may not know how to operate their coach with a generator.
Well, the situation can occur that you'll get to a campground and their power may not work for whatever the reason. Most motorhomes and many travel trailers or fifth wheels have a power system in it that will detect that you do not have power coming in, and it will automatically turn on the generator for you. You need to know how that system operates. And once you turn on the generator, then you need to know how long it's going to run and what kind of power you're actually getting from your system. Some of them will run everything in the motorhome just as if you're plugged in. Some of them in a travel trailer or in a fifth wheel may only give you limited service. You need to know that before you hit the road. And that's prior education that people need to make before they ever get out there.
Well, also one of the benefits of traveling with a group of people, there's always at least one or two that know how your system works. And they help you, because it seems like the fantasy that everybody works together.
Kind of a buddy system.
Very much so.
Some people use
What they call portable generators. Do you recommend that?
If that's your last choice, sure. A portable generator will get you through. But again, you need to know what it will power. You can power your refrigerator with it. You can power some lights with it. But you can't run your air conditioners on them. You
TVs.
can't run your televisions. There's so many things you can't use. Your hair dryer. There's so many things you can't do.
Really, anything that creates heat.
Yeah. You can't use your toaster oven, your
generator.
popcorn maker, that kind of thing. I had a situation in Canada where we had to dry camp for 3 nights. And some of the people in their RVs did not know how to operate those systems in their RVs. Traveling with us, you have people with you that know how to do it. I held a class in the campground after dinner one night and explained to people how to do it. And in a few cases, I went in the RVs and showed them how it worked. I'm not an expert, but we're prepared before we take you on the road.
So planning on a trip, long RV trip to Alaska or Maritime, something like that, how much should people plan on driving per day?
My experience has been anywhere between 200 and 300 miles is a normal day. Some days might be under 100. And in a few cases, I know in Alaska, there's a day or two where you're going to drive maybe 350 miles in a day because there's no place to stop from one campground to the next. You have to travel that far. But we try to keep it realistic. And I don't know what your experience has been with that kind of travel, but...
Well, we did the Mississippi River run, and so there was a lot of short trips. But we did have, I think, maybe just one day that was a longer day, and everybody was ready for it, so it was expected, and it went really well. And at the end of that, we had a meal that we were taking them out, so that was really nice. Even though the people were tired, they didn't have to do anything.
Do you move every day? Do you change campgrounds every day?
No, generally, like the Mississippi, it was a 34-day trip, and we probably... There were times if there was a lot to see, like in Memphis, which who knew that they had so much to see. We saw great places, and I think that was like 5 days that we stayed there, and there was so much to see. That was interesting.
It's very unusual to have to travel 2 days in a row without doing something. There are situations where it happens, so you'll drive one day, get to a campground, spend the night, the next morning, move on to another campground someplace down the road. But there wasn't an event or an activity at that one campground. It was a stopover at night. But we break up the drives so you don't have to drive 500 miles in a day. That doesn't happen.
Well, we're sitting here talking. I got me to thinking, well, do you plan a day off at any time during the tour.
Oh, you have to.
Always.
Yes, and the people really like it because, you've got all these activities set up for them that are enjoyable, but there's sometimes that they just want a day off, and they'll go back to maybe we did the Grand Canyon, and we stayed there for 3 or 4 days, and they went back to the Grand Canyon on their own so that there were things that they felt they needed to see, and they enjoyed it a lot. And then they came back and they told us, and then other people would go.
2 thoughts came to mind. Number one, people have to do laundry.
I just thought of that.
We give them a free day and they can go do their laundry, or if they want to go have a dinner on their own someplace, or they want to travel, like him had said, they want to go someplace and go back to something that they had seen before. That's really the important thing. And then the other thought I had was, when we have these free days, most of us that are running these trips, we try to give you nothing to do on that day. Meaning, we usually have driver's meetings. Before you hit the road, we have a driver's meeting to go over the route for that trip. We try not to do those driver's meetings on a free day.
Yes.
Free day is a free day.
Right.
No dinners, no breakfast. It's a free day. You want to sleep till 10, spend the day in your pajamas, knock yourself out.
You mentioned the term driver's meeting. Explain to us, what's a driver's meeting? Are they mandatory?
No. The words that I always use with all of our guests is, it's your vacation. You can do what you want to do on the vacation. We have the campground set up for you. Come to the campground. If you don't want to go out with us the next day, don't come. Just tell us you're not coming. We need to know that. The driver's meetings are not mandatory, but you're given a trip log, and the trip log gives you directions within 1/10 of a mile. It can be off a couple of tenths a few times, but they're within 1/10 of a mile of where you're going. And it's in your best interest to come to a driver's meeting, because we may add something to that, or we may say, this trip log lists a gas station at this turnoff, but we drove this last summer and that gas station isn't there anymore. They put the highway through there, so you can't stop there. So you can't stop at that gas station this time.
So don't plan.
Don't plan for it, but the driver's meetings are really important to go to.
You don't want to miss a turn.
No, you don't want to miss a turn. And we have people that show up and they'll say, I looked up the whole itinerary and I have all the GPS locations listed down for all the campgrounds, and my GPS is going to take me from one to the other. Okay. You came on this tour with us because along the way, we may take you to a pullout someplace for a view or for a meal or for a restaurant, and your GPS may take you a completely different way. You'll never see it.
It was very definitely like that on the Mississippi, because we're going on a scenic drive that takes you along the Mississippi, and it might take us 3 hours, but if they put it in their GPS, it'd take them 45. But
45 minutes.
But they miss all the scenery.
Sure.
Right. So it's about the scenery.
It's about the
It's about the trip.
But exactly. You're here to see the Mississippi and what's along it. Fascinating.
Very good. Very good. Any other topics that we didn't cover that you feel is important?
Well, I just think that you need to communicate with whoever you're going with on the trip. Communicate with your wagon master. Make sure you know where you're going, what you're going to be doing. If you have questions, ask them. You plan a trip by yourself, you have no one to ask.
It's not the same.
Right.
And so as tail gunners and wagon masters, what we hear is it's so nice not to have to worry about it. When they get there, they don't have a spot, or they don't have any place to eat, or they don't know what's there.
Right.
And everything's done for them.
Right. You mentioned pulling into a campground. How long does it usually take to pull in and set up, or tear down to move the next day?
You mean all 24 RVs?
No, individually.
Oh, well.
How long does it take?
I'd say probably 45 minutes.
Yeah, maybe. Running a trip as a wagon master, what I usually do when I get there, I take my car off, because I tow a car, take my car off, park my RV, plug my electric in. I'm ready to go. I can do that in 20 minutes, because behind me, I have 23 RVs coming in. But the average person coming into a campground Yeah, it may take them a half an hour, 45 minutes, maybe an hour. And in the morning, it may take you that much time
To break.
going out in the morning to break down.
Mm-hmm.
But a nice thing about traveling with us, another nice thing, our tail gunners leave last, which means they go around and watch everybody leave. If you pull out and you're dragging an electric cord, if your satellite dish is still up, if your antenna's up, if you didn't close the steps on your fifth wheel, somebody's there watching for you as you go out. We've saved a lot of people a lot of money and from having a lot of accidents
That's a great benefit.
Yeah.
Great benefit.
by having that.
Well, we had somebody that had their wheels turned on their Jeep that they were towing.
Yep.
Ooh, that's bad.
And they're dragging a Jeep.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not rolling, they're dragging. That happens.
Oh, yeah, it does. Yeah, it does.
Nice.
All right. Well, thank you, Kim and Vern. It's been a great pleasure. I hope you enjoyed it. For more information, click the link below or go to fantasyrvtours.com.